Welcome to this lesson, and this lesson will be treating cell organization and forms. So we'll be treating the different types of organizations of cells and also the different forms of cells. So let's hop in. Cell organization refers to the hierarchical arrangement of cells in an organism. So this is talking about how cells are being arranged within an organism. So now we're not talking about organelles in this case. We've left from cell and its organelles. Now we've gone to cells and organisms. Now we are seeing how cells make up organisms. Several cells make up organisms. So we're now trying to see how these cells are being organized within an organism. So the hierarchical organization of the hierarchical arrangement of cells within an organism is called cell organization, and it has been arranged from simple arrangement to complex arrangement. So that's called simple forms to complex forms. So this organization reflects both the structural makeup and the functional capacity of organisms. So cells may exist in unicellular organisms, performing all necessary life processes within a single cell, and also can exist as multicellular organisms where cells specialize and where different cells specialize and coordinate to support complex life functions. So what am I saying in essence? We can see some organisms that are made up of just a single cell, where that single cell carries out the main activity of that organism, all activities of that organism. So this kind of organisms are called unicellular organisms, meaning they have just one cell. While we have some other kind of organism where we have several types of cells, we have different cells, and these different cells carry out different functions. So these kind of organisms that have different cells responsible for their functioning, they are known as multicellular organisms. So now, multicellular organisms, they exhibit a high level of cellular organization. So we said on the cell level in our previous lesson, we said cells, they are the smallest units that are organized, and they carry out functions and are responsible for life. So now we are saying that multicellular organism is now a higher level of this cellular organization, where you see how organelles behave in cell. We are now seeing how cells now behave in an organized pattern in an organism. So cells, they group into tissues. So these groups of cells that make up multicellular organisms, they are grouped into tissues, and these tissues form organs, and organs also work together to form what is called a system. So systems make up an entire organism. So when we have cells, an aggregate of cells is what is called a tissue. When you have several cells coming together to perform a single function, it leads to formation of what is called a tissue. So when you now have several tissues, now maybe these tissues, now we have maybe one tissue, maybe tissue A made up of several cells, tissue B made up of several other cells, tissue C made up of several other cells. When you now group these different tissues, these different organized tissues, into a single grouping, is now called an organ. So now this organ now carries out a single function. For organs like the heart, the kidney, the liver, so these are called the organization of tissues. So when tissues aggregate together, they form what is called an organ. So when organs now work together, now when we have these different organs, like you can see the heart working with the liver, working with the kidney, working with different other organs in the body, as they work together, they then form a system. They form a system. Organs that are working together in organs work together in a system, and this system is actually what make up a living organism. So when we have these organs, individual organs working together, that's when we can then find what is called a living organisms. So these organs, they work in different systems. We have organs that are grouped together and they carry out function of respiration, organs that are grouped together and carry out the function of circulation, organs that are grouped together carrying out the function of excretion. So these organs now, when they function together, they are called system, or they lead to what is called a system. They form a system. When organs behave or work together, they form what is called a system, and that's why we have circulatory system, respiratory system, excretory system, and so on. So when all these systems now accumulate together, they lead to what is then seen as an organism, a full living organism. So this hierarchical structure allows division of labor and also efficiency within organisms. So now there are various forms of cell organization, such as epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissues. So we said that cells, when they are being organized together into different levels, they lead to what are called tissues. So now we are now trying to talk about these different organizations of cells together to form different types of tissues. So we have epithelial tissues, we have connective tissues, we have muscular tissues, we have nervous tissues. So each of these form is specialized. Each of these form is specialized for particular roles like protection, support, movement, transmission, and several other functions. So like we know, the muscular, they are responsible for support, they are responsible for movement also. We have the nervous, which are responsible for sending of signals, and so on. So these different organizations of cell are responsible for different functions in a human body or in general in organisms. So now, in plants, cell organization follows a similar hierarchical pattern. Specialized tissues like xylem and phloem enables the transport of water, nutrients, and food. So this organization is essential for plant growth and also survival. So the same way we have this cell being organized in animals, we also have these same kind of cells being organized in plants. So when we have generally when we said we have an organization of cells together to perform a single function, they call them tissues. So they are same tissues. They also see tissues also in plants. So tissues like xylem, phloem, they carry out basic functions of transportation of different macronutrients within the organism. So cell differentiation plays a major role in organization. So the different types of cell is actually necessary, because if there were no differentiation within cell, probably there will be disorder within every living organism or within an organism. So as cells differ, it's easy for them to now be organized into different organizations or into different tissues. So these differentiation play a very important role in their organization. So through differentiation, cells develop into specific types suited for unique roles. So this is guided by genetic instruction and environmental factors. So cells, they could have not been organized, as mean they did not have different roles. As mean everybody in this world was actually tall. We would have not been able to group people into average height and also small height. So that's actually what's happening here. So due to the diversity of cells, it's able to group cells into different organizations, leading to the formation of different tissues. And this actually is responsible for how the organisms or living organisms generally, they behave and function effectively, because as mean everything was doing the same function, there will be disorder within organisms. So now, in summary, we will say that cell organization and forms represent the complexity and efficiency of life, from single cells to intricate systems. And this organization is fundamental to biological functions and also adaptation. So it's important we take note of how these living organisms are being formed, starting from the cell level up onto the tissue level, then to the organ level and system, then formation of a complete organism. So this is actually how cells are being organized in living organisms, and it's called the hierarchical arrangement or cell organization. So with all this being said, I'll say we've come to the end of this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson.